Welcome to the arena, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Menzies, filling in for Michael Korn. Michael will be back tomorrow. You know, a funny thing happened to me on the way to Skydome the other day, and it was this. Thousands of people, myself included, witnessed one thing, and most of the consensus media reported a story that was radically different. Funny that. Allow me to explain, folks. After the taping of Ford Nation wrapped on Sunday afternoon, me and Joe, the Scrawler Warmington of the Toronto Sun, hitched a ride with Mayor Rob Ford to catch the second half of the CFL Eastern Final down at the Dome. Now, folks, if you believe the consensus media, Mayor Ford is an embarrassing disgrace and unfit to govern. And the citizenry of Hogtown supposedly want this guy out of town as soon as possible. So how very, very odd indeed then that as the mayor tried to get into and out of Skydome, absolute pandemonium erupted. As you just saw, I'm not talking about upset peasants carrying pitchforks and torches, pandemonium like something out of an old Frankenstein flick. No, it was the sort of reception a rock phenom or A-list movie star would receive. Adulation and photo seekers and autograph hounds. The two most common cries I heard uttered were, "You have my vote, Ford," and "We love you." It was astonishing. But what was even more astonishing was the sort of coverage the event received in the consensus media the very next day. Check this nugget out from the Toronto Red Star. Quote, "There were sporadic chants referencing his recent crack smoking admission. The Argos are whack, Rob Ford smokes crack." Folks, simply put, this chant never erupted. Or if it did, it must have been way up in the press box, not in section 129 where the mayor was seated, and I know because I was there. But wait, there's more. Check out the headline of a Canadian press story. Quote, "Rob Ford causes commotion attending Toronto CFL game he was asked not to attend." Oh, now, there's spin for you. Commotion, after all, has a pejorative tone to it, but this isn't what occurred. What occurred was a love fest. People were elated. And contrary to the report, Ford was never asked not to attend. True, the Argos didn't provide comp tickets, which, by the way, speaks volumes about the team's lack of marketing savvy. But then again, I suspect there are some suits in Argoland that are tied to the political elites that want Ford ousted. Nevertheless, folks, the point is this. I witnessed firsthand, as did the Scrawler, the elated reaction Ford generated. And it did not in any way resemble what was printed the following day by most media outlets. Why? Is it because when it comes to the leftist elite and the red Tories and the consensus media, all of whom support a tax and spend agenda, Rob Ford's message of respect for taxpayers is one to be mocked, even if that message resonates with most citizens? The thing is, if you were to form an opinion on Ford's political future based on the media coverage and the tut-tut commentary from the tall forehead types, as well as a certain three-time political loser who hopes to be mayor of Toronto, you'd swear that Ford has no future. But follow the mayor or his brother Doug to a football game or a Walmart or a no-frills supermarket store, and a radically different picture emerges. Which is to say, the common man and woman recognize that Mayor Ford has some personal demons that he must slay, unquestionable. But unlike the drunken sailors currently running Queen's Park, home to several billion-dollar scandals ranging from e-health in Orange to the cancelled gas plants and the Pan Scam games, Mayor Rob Ford does not have his hand in the taxpayer's wallet. Indeed, the precise opposite is the case. Ford has capped tax increases to an all-time low. He jettisoned the vehicle registration tax and got rid of bike lanes on Jarvis Street. He has saved the city about $1 billion. He has derailed a ludicrous streetcar scheme in favor of proper subways. He has contracted out more garbage collection to the private sector. He has inked labor deals with the city's unions without Toronto enduring any work stoppages, an achievement, by the way, union-friendly Mayor David Miller was never able to pull off. Yet it's worth noting that even before the mayor's crack smoking incident was verified, his enemies had it out from him. From day one, the mayor was viciously attacked for, well, for starters, his weight. Heck, the Toronto Star thought that the mayor visiting a Kentucky Fried Chicken outlet actually qualified as front page news. And Now Magazine photoshopped his head on the body of a naked obese man. Oh, that's class. And yet, if Mayor Ford were black or Muslim or homosexual, would the consensus media ever dare vilify this man based on skin color, religion, or sexual orientation? I think not. Folks, even Mayor Ford's vehicle has been the subject of scorn and ridicule. When he acquired a new set of wheels, which was a birthday present from his brother Doug, there was an outcry. Seriously. That's how petty things are at City Hall these days. You see, if Ford's new ride was a hybrid Toyota Prius, he would have received a pass. If the mayor had snagged a fully electric vehicle such as the Nissan Leaf, well, even his enemies might offer a bit of praise. But no, Mayor Ford drives a sport utility vehicle. Oh, and the horror, not just some garden variety SUV either, but this puppy.
Introducing the new Escalade EXT and the extended Escalade ESV.
Yes, a supersized, luxury-laden yacht. The most vociferous critic was the Star's Christopher Hume. Now, Hume normally writes about urban affairs and architecture, but somehow he felt compelled to take on the mantle of automotive critic. Here's what he penned, folks. Quote, as the Fords understand, vehicular symbolism resonates deeply in Toronto, a city that has sacrificed more on the altar of the car than just about any other North American city north of Phoenix. Folks, Hume is being sadly delusional here. From the cancellation of the Spadina Expressway to the proliferation of speed bumps, it is the car that is being sacrificed in Hogtown. But once again, the Star doesn't want the facts to get in the way of a riveting piece of fiction. And make no mistake, hatred of this man by the chattering classes is downright visceral. Case in point, earlier this year, the Toronto Catholic District School Board decided that Mayor Ford would no longer be coaching the Don Bosco Eagles high school football team. The board said it was axing Ford to pursue a, quote, different direction. Gee, what direction would that be? Losing? After all, Ford took this team to the Metro Bowl championship last year. In fact, the team had its most successful season ever. Aren't successful coaches at any level typically asked to stay on, not move on? The cowards who run the Catholic board give no reason for their decision. Bruce Rodriguez, the director of education, issued this statement, quote, this decision was based on what is best for our students, our school, and the Don Bosco community. Insert drum riff here. I've personally interviewed players, parents, and even the principal of Don Bosco. They adored the work Rob Ford has done in resurrecting what used to be a defunct program until Rob Ford came along and injected $25,000 of his own money to get it up and running again. And it's no secret the mayor has changed the lives of many young men in a part of Toronto that is, well, let's put it this way. If Hogtown were a Monopoly game board, the neighborhood where Don Bosco is located is less boardwalk and more Baltic Avenue. This is not an insult, just an acknowledgement of reality. But folks, the proof is in the pigskin pudding. 5 years ago, I spoke with Jerome Miller, a Don Bosco grad who scored an NCAA scholarship thanks to Ford's football program. He told me this, quote, Rob Ford has been able to take a lot of kids off the street. Meanwhile, the mother of another player told the Globe and Mail last year that the media would be reporting on the body on the street without the football program. But apparently the chattering classes couldn't care less about members of the underclass catching a break. Rather, they wanted to hurt the mayor. So because he loved that football team, they took it away and they did hurt him. Make no mistake, folks, what we are seeing today at Toronto City Council is a political assassination. Council is actually dreaming up new laws to make their illegal actions legal. It's a coup d'etat that is aided and abetted by forces ranging from a complicit media to an interfering chief of police. And it is a coup that would make a banana republic dictator blush. Simply put, there are people with mayoralty ambitions who realize that unless Rob Ford is in jail or, God forbid, 6 feet under, they don't have a hope in hell of being elected mayor. That's what this witch hunt is all about. Still, as the old chestnut goes, he who laughs last laughs loudest. Mark your calendars, folks. On October 27, 2014, it will be Mayor Ford and the rank-and-file members of Ford Nation who will be laughing loudly indeed. Golly, just what will the political elites and the consensus media do then? And that's the Menzoid monologue.
It's humbling. I want to thank my supporters for sticking with me. I guarantee you're going to see a change in the next few months.
Well, that is the Rob Ford story, according to me, and I think a man that echoes my opinion is my next guest, Anthony Furey, Sun News contributor. And folks, I got to say this. If you can, please, by all means, Google Anthony's Saturday Sun column, Ford Nation versus the Political Class. It is absolute must-read material, and Anthony is a man who has his finger on the pulse of what's going on. Anthony, please give our viewers a synopsis of what you wrote on Saturday.
Well, I read a story in the Toronto Star that dozens of movers and shakers, powers that be from the NDP, Liberal and Conservative parties, met in a boardroom of Fleishman Hillard, which is a sort of consultancy strategy lobbyist firm, to speak about how John Tory must become the next mayor of Toronto. Now, I believe that the Toronto Star journalists thought they were writing a story about how, look, Rob Ford is so hated that across the political divide, people are willing to come together to make sure he does not win. What this story actually was, though, David, and this is how people are going to interpret it as, is a story about how the political class has decided, no, we will not tolerate for this man outside of us. And people have tried to tell me that because their father was a progressive conservative MP, he's somehow MPP, he's somehow an insider. No, that's not the case. He doesn't roll with the political class, and that he doesn't open the doors to their consultancy firms, and he does not kiss the ring of the typical Toronto power brokers that one must kiss to run for mayor of Toronto, even though who the hell came up with that rule? Why is it law? Well, of course, they're going to try and blockade you from getting a campaign structure together. They're going to try and stop people who typically contribute, the maximum contribution to these elections from contributing to your campaign. These stories are going to backfire. People are tired of seeing this. Toronto Life magazine cover right now, David, is who really runs this city. They do this every year. It's the 50 people. Rob Ford is not one of them. The 50 people who, gosh darn it, really run Toronto. Some of them are fashion bloggers. It is so highfalutin, and you know what? It may be true amongst the chattering classes. These are the 50 hit people this year. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the people who make up the Ford Nation support or anybody who has any sympathy for Rob Ford are going to resent deeply stories like that, and I think as they should.
And Anthony, what was fascinating about that meeting with Fleishman Hillard and conservatives and liberals and Tories was the fact that the people covering this didn't understand the subtext, that these were a bunch of unelected former appointees getting together and coming to a consensus of who should be running the city. Let's not let that messy thing called democracy and what the people want get in the way.
I'm glad you mentioned that because, and in my column coming out in tomorrow's papers, I really talk about how democracy is the thing that's in crisis at Toronto Council right now, not Toronto itself. And I hasten to add that no media outlet, well, only a couple, have reported that City Manager Joe Panichetti, an apolitical office, chief bureaucrat for the city, has released a statement saying Toronto is not in crisis due to these unfortunate circumstances, as he refers to Mayor Ford's personal problems. And what is really going on here, David? I've gone on debates on international media, and I've had feedback from my column and people out in the Twitter sphere. At the end of the day, nobody can tell me why Rob Ford must be removed from office or at least have his powers taken away. At the end of the day, all they can say is, oh, his policies hurt people. You know what? Maybe that's true. That's fine. Then don't vote for him in October next year. And the other argument is that he's not people like us. At the end of the day, people think Rob Ford is trash. That's what they think. And you know what? They're entitled to think that. But I wish they'd come out and say it so we know exactly how they feel and why they're getting their opinions from. And they don't think trash should be allowed to be mayor and maybe shouldn't even be allowed to vote.
And Anthony, let's hear from one of the potential mayors in waiting, Olivia Chow.
The Chinese are talking about Rob Ford. We are embarrassed because of his lies, providing affordable housing and childcare and creating green jobs. Youth employment issues are being sidelined. Toronto has passionate citizens that very inspiring in their cultural and musical or artistic talents. And I'm very glad that Toronto City Council is taking corrective action.
So does his implosion then give you all the more reason to run?
I'll make a decision later on. We're butt of jokes because of his lies, and we are being embarrassed.
Gee, Anthony, call me rude or call me insensitive, but I'd be more embarrassed about my late husband being found as a found-in at a notorious rub-and-tug massage parlor. But that didn't get a lot of press, did it now?
No, it didn't, and we were chastised for running that story. I find that a weird statement. The Chinese in Toronto want green jobs? What is she talking about? Since when is she the honorary Chinese person? The other thing is, look...
Well, Anthony, I'm sorry, we got a break here. It's because, and I'll answer your question, she just proclaimed herself the honorary Chinese person. That's
she should run. That's what she should do. None of these statements. Run for office, Olivia. Bring the goods. That's it.
Thank you so much. Anthony Furey, Sun News Network.
Bye now.